All right, everybody, it's time to start the show. The music tells us it's 7 o'clock, and we're ready to talk business, politics, and economics. And my name is Rex Perry. I'm the host and creator of the show. If you just happen to stumble into our show, we have a variety of different guests. We talk a lot about real estate because it is the heartbeat of the economy of Arizona. And our first guest is Lisa. Give us your last name. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, I'm LisaWunder with eXp Realty.
And you've been doing real estate how long?
Oh, goodness. I got my license in 89. I've been here in Arizona since 2000.
Fantastic. And Becky?
Yes, I'm Becky Wunder with VIP Mortgage.
And the connection is?
I'm married to her son.
Ah, there you go. Ooh,
the
that's
mother of her grandchildren.
You know, the fact that a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law can work together gives us all hope, doesn't it? and Tessi.
Hi, I'm Tessi.Willis with Magnus Title Agency. I'm a business development partner, so I get to support wonderful agents like LisaWunder.
Fantastic. And we're going to talk real estate because, first of all, Arizona is still growing so much. Tell us what you're seeing out there in the market.
Well, there's so many different stories going on. There's obviously there's a lot of fear with consumers, and there's still so much possibility. But the reality is, every street you drive down, you're seeing new construction somewhere, all parts of the valley.
And let's talk about inventory, too, because for a very, very long time, and really since COVID, it was really hard. People were lining up to buy a house, but now it's kind of switched where, tell us what it means to have a buyer's market.
So we are definitely in more of a buyer's market. It's not an extreme buyer's market.
It's kind of balanced.
It is pretty balanced. And at the same time, that creates so much opportunity if a seller's able. Sometimes they're not able to. But for buyers to have the opportunity to get closing costs, to get price reductions on the property, and to have that opportunity to help to offset some of the lending things that are going on. There's creative ways to get that done for buyers that maybe people aren't aware of.
Yeah, it helps buyers get into the home. And as far as a lender, you have different programs. Tell us some of the different programs you have to help with the buyers on that.
Oh, yeah, there's so many. So lately we've been seeing a lot of self-employed buyers getting out there in the market. One of my favorites to use is a bank statement loan. Those avoid tax returns, P&Ls, and balance sheets altogether. So sometimes a self-employed person will show a ton of cash flow in their bank statements, but as with any good CPA, they write everything off. So when you go to look at tax returns, it doesn't look like they make any money. But with bank statement loans, we can qualify buyers with 12 months of the average deposits, and then that makes their income look so much better. And it's really a truer picture of how much they actually make. And
yeah, so there's a lot of people out there that are self-employed and think there's no way I can qualify.
Right.
But really what they should do is talk to the lender first and get that all that paperwork together.
Correct. The first step should always be talk to a lender, because you'll go and say, I really love this house, but you have no clue if you can actually qualify for that house or not. So step one should always be talk to the lender and then talk to your agent.
And by the way, talking to a lender is kind of like talking to a priest, right, everybody?
Right.
Everything's very confidential.
Very confidential. I've heard great stories and
nightmares. She's zipping it right now. And here's the point. You can help them figure out what to do, because it might take a year or two to get things cleaned up.
Absolutely. We put people on a plan all the time. My favorite story, my best friend bought her first house 3 years ago, but when she did it, she didn't use me. It was out of state, and she got 2 hours outside of town. She works in the city, so it was 4 hours round trip, drowning in debt. I'm like, let me look at your entire picture here, because this isn't how you should live. So I looked at her debt. I'm looking at what her house payment is, what she's spending in gas. I'm looking at the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense for you to live here. I think it might be time for you to move back into the city. So she sold her house, bought a new house in the city, has been living there 3 months, and she's out of debt. She paid all her debt off with the sale of her house and is living life.
This is the planning you need. Now let's talk about support. You do sometimes work with the agents, for example, putting together an open house. Tell us a little bit about some of the support you do.
Yeah, so I'm more or less behind the scenes working with Lisa and some other agents, whether it's marketing strategy or creating opportunity around the listings that they have, things that they may need for their buyers and sellers. So that's kind of where I fall into place. And then obviously our escrow team and our title team is supporting at the closing table, getting everything coordinated, collecting earnest money, running title search, that sort of thing. So it's a well-rounded support behind the scenes.
Yeah, and sometimes these open houses, Lisa, actually are a benefit because you can get to know the neighbors and at the title company. Everybody take a deep breath. There's a lot of public information out there. Everybody take a deep breath. It's called the County Recorder's Office, and who holds title to land is public record. And guess what? The property taxes is also property, public record. So everybody, don't think that everybody's invading your privacy.
Right.
It's public record. So having a good title company and a good marketing can help with an open house.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we actually really love is the neighbors. And a personal story of mine, I'm a real estate agent. There was a property that I wound up getting, and it was mislabeled in the MLS. It was in the avenues. And one of my friends said, "Why aren't you looking at this house? It's in the perfect location," because his daughters lived in the community. And I wound up getting that house. And so we love neighbors because they do talk about their neighborhood. They have friends that visit. They have company that comes over. Let me know if something comes on the market. And just recently, I had a client that purchased a home out in Chandler, and it is next door to their children. They're moving up in their years, and they wanted to be in a single level closer to family. They bought a home right next door.
Isn't that cool? Now, wait a minute. Grandkids can now walk next door to see the grandparents. And if there's an emergency,
Yes.
with the kids, this really becomes, and by the way, it's not in the same house. It's two separate homes, but you're really close.
Exactly.
And a lot of us grew up in small towns. I grew up in Prescott. I had cousins and
Sure.
aunts and uncles down the street from us. So that's a cool experience on that.
Yeah. And we love the open houses. To have other agents come in, see the houses as well, inviting them, even doing broker opens, because they have people in their car that could be a buyer for, our listing. And so we want to, have that communication. We want to have that collaboration and ethics in our community. We love to get together and do those kind of things. And both Becky and Tessi, are there. They support us with, doing these activities. I tend to go a little bit wild when I do these fun things. So we like eating. My background is definitely a food culture. So
Well, now let's talk about that. So with an open house, sometimes you get potential buyers that are getting pre-qualified to see what they can afford. Tell us how you help do that.
Honestly, when I'm in an open house supporting the listing agent, I try my best actually not to talk about mortgages because they don't want to talk about
they wanna
numbers
see
at
the
those
house.
open houses. They want to fall in love with
That's a
it.
good point.
And so my job when I go to an open house is to support the listing agent. I'm putting out the signs when it's hot so they can stay cool.
That's
and fluff them
awesome.
pillows. I'm bringing the water and the ice and controlling traffic to make sure that the listing agent is not overwhelmed with the amount of traffic that's coming in because, people are trying to ask questions a bunch and it can get overwhelming.
Yeah, and also, Tessie, you are able to reach out to other agents and invite them. Tell us how you
Yes.
make contact. Tell us some of the stuff that you do on that.
So like you said, everything is pretty much public record.
Yeah.
So being able to have access to a database of all the agents in the valley, we're able to extend those invites and blast out whether it's a broker open or an open house, again, for further exposure. And then also assisting with like the marketing pieces and the imaging and everything for social media and for those email blasts. And then obviously for communicating with the neighbors and things like that as well.
And so this is important because, first of all, you'll agree, you need a team.
absolutely.
And tell us, being an agent so many years, having that team to be able to turn to helps you so many different ways. Any other stories that you can think of with work? Did you mention something about Awatuki and a different customer that you worked with recently?
Yes, and we do a lot of stuff in Awatuki, and we do go where our clients need us
Sure.
to go.
All over the valley.
And one story that just popped into my mind about like this open house concept, listing a house in Awatuki, and a young guy came in, and he's like, he actually did fall in love with the house, like Becky was just saying that they fall in love. So I did have Becky's partner went to go get something, wasn't there at the moment, and I said he's going to be back in 10 minutes. So literally the next day, this guy was under contract, and he did not think that he could buy a house, and he still lives there.
Oh, wow.
So it's a wonderful thing, to see that actually happen, and just he fell in love with the house, and he was renting.
Wow. Now, Becky, you worked to get the loan through. What were some of the hurdles? Because like you said, some people think that they can't buy the house. Can you remember what kind of solutions you came up with?
You know, sometimes it's just being creative. So seller credits, for instance, are one of the biggest tools that we can use when ratios are really tight. So sometimes a seller will say, well, if my house isn't selling, I want to lower the price. And I always try to push them like, "Ugh,
Yeah.
you get way more bang for your buck if you just offer that same amount you were going to reduce.
And
into
it
a
helps
seller
the
credit.
comps in the area, by the way, everybody. You know, that
Absolutely.
helps
Sure.
establish value.
Win-win-win
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah.
So I think in that case, he was really tight in ratio because of rate. So best way to overcome that is to get that rate lower, and you get more bang for your buck if you can buy down the rate versus, lowering sales price.
Yeah.
So.
And again, we should explain that. When a house gets sold, again, everybody take a deep breath. It's public record, okay? So what that sold for affects the neighborhood, because when an appraiser goes back to try to establish value for something that's going to go on the market, they find out when and where and how much that sold for, if it's in the last 6 months. And if you start dropping those prices, everybody suffers. So having these negotiations and balancing really works. We got about 2 minutes left. Let's start contact information. We're going to do a break here and come back. How can people get a hold of you?
Oh, well, my phone number is 602-538-4308.
One more time.
602-538-4308. And my email address is my name at Gmail, LisaWunder@gmail.
WN.
WUNDER.
And also, Becky, how do they reach you?
Yes, you can call, text, or email. Phone number is 480-578-0196. And again,
Yes, please.
480
I know it feels weird.
578-0196. And you can email me at bwunder@VIPMTGINC.com.
Excellent. And how do they reach you, Tessie?
Phone, text, or call, text, or email 480-703-4458. And that was 480-703-4458. And email is Tessi.willis. And I'm going to spell my first name, TESSI.willis@magnustitle.com.
Fantastic, guys. We got to do a little bit of a break here, but we want to continue to talk about this market because there might be some very beneficial lower interest rates that might be coming. We don't know for sure. Somebody once said it's really hard to predict the future. So we're not going to say anything about that, but everybody stay tuned. We're going to do a break. We're going to be right back.